As I mentioned in my opening statement, I introduced this Strengthening the NRC Workforce Act because one of the most critical ways we can ensure that the NRC maintains the highest levels of public safety is by making sure they're fully staffed. And, but the other thing is, if you want to ensure timely consideration of applications, you have to have the NRC be fully staffed too. And so, Mr. Dorman, I want to ask you, I mentioned, and you were shaking your head, so I know your answer already, roughly 1/3 of the NRC staff is eligible for retirement, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so with increased interest in nuclear energy and advanced reactors, NRC's expecting a significant increase in applications for new reactor licenses. Is that right?
Just to clarify, in the near term, we're expecting several applications for new reactor licenses. I think those we call first of a kind. As those become demonstrated, we're hearing from the industry that there are many people who want to be next in line. So I think we're seeing a modest increase in the near term with the potential for a fairly significant increase in not too distant future.
And so you're gonna really need to have a robust and highly educated staff. I guess that would be safe to say, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How would the use of direct hire authority prepare the NRC for this anticipated increase in workload?
It would be a great assistance. I think we have, over the last decade, the staffing of the NRC was reduced by about 1/3. We've kind of turned that corner and leveled it off in the last year or two, and that, as you noted, the age demographic of our workforce has resulted in increased attrition, and so we're hiring really to offset that attrition. We're kind of just starting to make progress to increase to get closer to our allotted FTE.
Okay.
As we do that, the industry is also expanding, and so we are competing in a very competitive market right now.
Yeah, and so if you could increase compensation for the existing workforce, that would ensure the NRC would remain fully staffed as well, right?
It would be a great help, yes, ma'am.
And if you had the staff and the funding, then NRC would be able to be more expeditious in reviewing the licenses, especially the wave that you're anticipating. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. It will be essential that we are able to fully staff the core teams for multiple applications.
Now, I want to ask you quickly about another bill, the Efficient Nuclear Licensing Hearings Act, because you talked in your testimony about one thing we could do about siting new reactors and so on. You talked about brownfields and other sites. How would removing the requirement that NRC hold hearings on new reactors threaten public safety and shake public confidence in the NRC?
Thank you, Ranking Member Degette. I think there's a substantial amount of information that's available to the public today that was not available routinely or easily in the period when that requirement was established. Our public-facing web-based records management system has been in place for over a quarter of a century now, and we've upgraded it with improved search engines to really make information available to the public.
Okay, I think that's great, but what would happen if you removed the requirement that the NRC hold hearings on new reactors?
I think it's important to note that that would not in any way affect the interests of any party who would seek a hearing. So we still have the safety evaluation and the environmental review done by the staff.
Okay, so you don't think it would make any difference?
It would not impact our safety conclusion. It would have perhaps.
Do you think it would impact the public's confidence in the facility if you didn't have hearings?
We have significant engagement with the public throughout our process, so I think it would not.
Yes or no will work?
No, I don't believe it would significantly degrade public confidence.
Now, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Goff, very briefly. In the Strengthening American Competitiveness Act, there's a section, Part 810, where it talks about our exports of nuclear materials. Do you think this would impact our ability to export nuclear materials to, say, places like Japan and other countries?
I mean, we do have to abide by the 810 process. for countries like Japan, and a number of those countries already have general authorization, so it's much easier to transfer standard technologies to them. Countries that there are certain countries though that require specific authorizations, and those, there is much more of a review on that.
Great, thank you. I yield back.